Tonight, Hurricane Helene intensifies, now forecast to potentially hit Florida as a powerful Category 4 storm.
I'm worried about the storm surge that could be 4 to 8 feet.
Israel prepares for a possible ground invasion of Lebanon as the U.S. pushes for a ceasefire.
We're focused right now on making sure that we can de-escalate, avoid a full-scale war.
I'm the mastermind behind the whole thing.
And tonight's Eye on America, how scammers are tricking Americans into falling in love with them and then giving up millions of dollars.
Which areas of the world are easier to catch?
Easy to catch is Americans.
CBS Evening News starts now. Good evening and thank you for joining us. We have important new information just coming in about Hurricane Helene as 75 million Americans across Florida and the Southeast brace for impact tomorrow night. Now, it could potentially make landfall as a catastrophic Category 4 hurricane. The new forecast means people on Florida's Big Bend could experience winds of up to 130 miles per hour and storm surges up to 20 feet. The National Weather Service just put out a new warning that says in some areas the storm surge will be potentially unsurvivable. We have a team of correspondents in the storm zone, and CBS's Lonnie Quinn will lead us off with the latest on this increasingly dangerous storm. Good evening, Lonnie.
All right, Nora, we are looking at a storm right now that's a Category 1, not the biggest storm that we've ever seen, but all eyes are on the state of Florida, and here's the reason why. You've got this storm in the middle of the Gulf on top of water that is 86 degrees. 81-degree water allows the hurricane to get stronger. Well, this is going to get stronger fast, possibly up to that Category 4 status that you're talking about. Landfall looks to be sometime late Thursday. Category 4 storm brings all sorts of danger with it. Storm surge, the most dangerous and deadly portion of a hurricane. Yesterday, I was talking about 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. Well, the new data suggests that number could be as big as 10 to 20 feet of storm surge. Elevation is about 5 feet in that portion of the country. My goodness, that is 15 feet of water on top of people's homes. Winds, this is a Category 4 potentially with winds 120 miles per hour, breaking down to about 110 as that storm encounters friction with the land. As it pushes inland, the winds get weaker. But when you're starting with those big numbers, even Atlanta, Georgia, 225 miles from landfall, has tropical storm force winds 60 to maybe 80 miles per hour. The rainfall, the numbers are going to be very large. On the shore, I'd say you're looking at about a foot of rain, but as it goes inland and drags in tropical moisture with it, you could be seeing 20 inches in portions of North Carolina, and the tornado threat from Tampa anywhere up into South Carolina. Nora, this thing is a beast.
Really good information, Lonnie Quinn. Thank you very much. Well, now we're going to check in with our reporters who are covering the storm zone tonight on the Gulf Coast of Florida. They are positioned along a roughly 170-mile stretch from the Big Bend region to the city of Tampa, beginning with CBS's Jason Allen. He is in the coastal community of Steenhatchee. Good evening, Jason.
Good evening, Nora. Here on the Gulf Coast in Steenhatchee, nearly every boat has moved out of this usually busy marina. The water here has surged as high as 8 feet during storms just in the past year.
6 feet up inside the house.
6 feet inside the house?
Inside the house, 6 feet for Idalia.
George Edwards hired movers to take everything out of his home, the same thing he did a year ago.
A mandatory evacuation order has been issued for this area.
All morning, sheriff deputies drove through the streets telling people to leave. Storms have hit here so regularly.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Dreama Levitt gathered storm-weary residents for a sunrise prayer session today as Helene closed in.
We don't want to go through this anymore, but we are going to have to.
I'm Nicole Valdez in Crystal River, where businesses have heeded the warnings. They've boarded up. These streets are empty now, braced for what could be catastrophic storm surge. Helene could put a 2-story building nearly underwater with a storm surge up to 20 feet. Last year's hurricane flooded Pastor Corey Saul's coffee shop with 3 feet of water. Now he's moving equipment to higher ground.
Getting everything out. So as long as it stays under 3 feet in there, then we don't have to do any drywall replacement or any electrical stuff or anything.
I'm Manuel Bajorquez at Tampa General Hospital, where this temporary barrier known as an aqua fence has gone up around the ground floor. It is designed to stop storm surge from flooding this level 1 trauma facility. The hospital is on an island, and with 5 to 8 feet of storm surge expected in this area, keeping it open and operating during Helene is critical.
So we cannot evacuate. Our patients are too critical to move, and there aren't any other hospitals that are critical enough to take care of them. So it's actually safer to have them here with the care they need. Don't risk transport.
Already in St. Petersburg, some of the most vulnerable residents are being evacuated from flood-prone areas. And some counties in the Tampa Bay area have now issued mandatory evacuation orders for some low-lying areas as time to get to higher ground is running out. The first impacts from what is now expected to become a major hurricane could be felt here in just a matter of hours. Nora?
All right, Manny, Nicole, and Jason, thanks to all of you. And we are following breaking news out of Central California, where a bomb exploded at a courthouse in Santa Maria this morning. 6 people were injured, and a man is under arrest tonight. CBS's Carter Evans joins us now with the new details. So, Carter, what happened?
Well, good evening, Nora. First here in Los Angeles right now. As a precaution, the sheriff here is adding extra patrols at courthouses after what happened 150 miles away in Santa Maria. I want to show you video of the suspect being dragged away from the scene in handcuffs. Now, we've confirmed that just after 8:30 this morning, the man was able to throw a bag past metal detectors where it exploded in front of a courtroom being used for criminal arraignments. Now, investigators say it was an IED, an improvised explosive device. People were injured and taken to the hospital for treatment as nearby buildings were evacuated. Now, I spoke with an attorney who was there. He told me he heard the explosion, he saw smoke, and saw people running, yelling, "It's a bomb." The attorney also said that as the suspect was wrestled to the ground, he yelled something about the FDA poisoning people. Nora?
Carter Evans, thank you very much. Turning overseas to several ominous developments in the Middle East. Israel's army chief says the military is preparing for a possible ground invasion of Lebanon after Hezbollah launched a ballistic missile toward Tel Aviv this morning. Now, here's what President Biden says about the growing danger.
An all-out war is possible, but I think there's also the opportunity, or still in play, to have a settlement that could fundamentally change the whole region.
CBS's Imtiaz Tayeb reports tonight from Lebanon.
The lives of so many here have been shattered so quickly, and the fear now is things are about to get far worse. While addressing troops on the northern border, Israel's army chief warned of a potential ground invasion in southern Lebanon. In just 3 days, over 600 have been killed and thousands more wounded here, according to Lebanese health officials, including Samea Moussawi. We are strong, she says. No matter what Israel does, we will remain strong. According to the UN, more than 90,000 people have fled Israel's strikes as Hezbollah continues to fire back. This ballistic missile aimed at Tel Aviv was intercepted, but Israel's leaders say their campaign won't end until residents displaced from rocket fire can go home, while Hezbollah says it won't stop targeting Israel until there's a ceasefire in Gaza.
And the idea of going into Lebanon on the ground is pretty tricky for them because Hezbollah is preparing for that, and it's what they really want to happen because they feel they can humiliate the Israelis, even though it'll come at a price.
And as these bitter enemies harden their positions, the region is bracing for an all-out war, while intense diplomacy led by the U.S. is underway tonight to prevent this already devastating conflict from spiraling out of control. Nora.
A lot of diplomacy underway. Imtiaz Tayeb, thank you very much. Well, today, Donald Trump lashed out at Iran, even threatening mass destruction after being briefed by security officials that Iran was plotting to assassinate him. U.S. officials called the threats clear and say they are revenge for ordering the killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in 2020. Current and former administration officials are apparently also being targeted. CBS's Nancy Cordes reports.
We are under threat.
Iran is no ally of the U.S., but at a rally near Charlotte, North Carolina today, former President Donald Trump took the tough talk to a new level.
But if I were the president, I would inform the threatening country, in this case Iran, that if you do anything to harm this person, we are going to blow your largest cities and the country itself to smithereens.
His comments came one day after Trump's campaign said he had been briefed by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence regarding real and specific threats from Iran to assassinate him in an effort to destabilize and sow chaos in the United States. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said today that the U.S. is tracking an ongoing threat by Iran against multiple U.S. officials.
I don't have any further information to share, but know that we're watching this.
In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Vice President Harris was focused on the economy.
Look, I'm a capitalist.
Her top priorities, she said, were cutting taxes for the middle class, lowering the cost of child care and elder care, expanding access to paid leave, and providing more assistance to startup businesses and first-time homebuyers.
Now, by contrast, Donald Trump has no intention of lowering costs for the middle class. In fact, his economic agenda would actually raise prices.
Her speech comes as multiple polls show that, number one, Americans are starting to feel a little better about the economy, and number two, that Harris has begun to chip away at Donald Trump's advantage on that issue. It's something that President Biden tried to do for months without much success, Nora, when he was the nominee.
Nancy Cordes, thank you. Eye on America is next with an undercover investigation into online romance scams targeting Americans, young men posing as women on the internet and then fleecing victims out of millions of dollars. Tonight, our year-long investigation into online romance scams shifts focus from victim to scammer. We've been sharing heartbreaking stories of people fleeced out of their life savings by scammers who prey on their lonely hearts. So who would do something like this? Well, in tonight's Eye on America, CBS's Deborah Patta takes us on a stunning journey to the West African nation of Ghana, inside the secret rooms where these multi-million-dollar schemes are hatched.
Down a dusty alley in Accra, young men cast off their true identities as they enter this apartment. They call it their hustle kingdom. Meet Ghana's Yahoo boys, online fraudsters who swindle Americans out of millions of dollars by luring them into romance scams.
I go on online dating sites, find a male friend.
Abdullah, not his real name, is part of this syndicate that we filmed undercover. Late into the night, he scours online dating sites, preying on lonely older men over the age of 60, posing as this woman.
I'll go on Instagram, use a girl's picture. I pretended to be a girl, chat with him.
The scammers pretend to be white American women residing in the US, tricking men into falling in love with them. But these are small-time hustlers working for a boss who sets them up with phones, laptops, electricity and internet. And there are hundreds more underground boiler rooms just like this throughout Ghana.
I'm the mastermind behind the whole thing.
That's syndicate boss Voodoo, together with a senior member who calls himself Kola. They've agreed to speak to us on condition we conceal their identities.
I come from a poor family and a poor background.
And in a world connected by the click of a button, they've turned to cyber fraud.
How am I going to survive?
Kolar's a university graduate who can't find a job.
I feel disappointed, like I didn't go to school to do this. Sometimes we take money from people, imagine that is my dad. But hey, in our game there's no sympathy. Because once you go on the sympathetic side, you go hungry.
At the very bottom of the syndicate, new recruits learn the tricks of the trade, starting out by trawling the internet for new clients. Once hooked, the closers like Voodoo and Kola step in.
I've fished everywhere in the world.
Which areas of the world are easier to catch?
Okay, easy to catch is Americans.
Here he's chatting with a 60-year-old man, posing as Sandra, living in New York, who'll soon be visiting her grandmother in Africa. The man asks what she looks like. Voodoo pulls this image from a porn site. Here's what comes next. the illusion of a budding romance. It begins with sending little tokens of affection, like chocolates or a teddy bear. They message constantly, laying on the attention and flattery. Then it's more expensive gifts to create the perception they are independently wealthy. When a victim insists on a video call, Voodoo hires online porn stars and records them acting out scenarios that he directs, from the mundane to the more raunchy.
They think they're talking to this beautiful blonde woman. Yeah. I've paid to just have her on a video call. There's a picture.
If the victim gets suspicious, Voodoo works his magic. Here, he uses the image of one of his porn stars to forge an American passport as proof of identity. For in-person visits, they hire escorts who get a cut of the profits. Building trust can take months.
He do all that to get his attention and the trust. Boom, then we chip in business.
It's time for the big con, getting them to part with huge sums of money. The setup often centers around Ghana's globally renowned gold mines, the largest in Africa. The scammers, still posing as a woman, claim they're in line to inherit one of these mines. The victim is invited to invest in the mine with the promise of huge returns that will secure the happy couple's future together. All sealed with a forged ownership document, complete with an official seal. Yahoo boys and their hustle kingdoms are glamorized in popular West African culture. Voodoo and Cola claim their biggest payout was in the millions.
Every person have money. If you don't have money, the bank can borrow you money.
Do people go into debt then because of you?
Yeah.
They live a flashy lifestyle, expensive clubs, beach parties, fancy cars. We filmed one group celebrating a big payout by just throwing money in the air. But behind the flash and glitz, they style themselves as modern-day Robin Hoods.
Robbing Peter to people, right? But the Pauls in this contest really need help.
So, you lie and cheat for a living. How do I know you're not lying and cheating to me now?
I don't lie and cheat for a living. I'm using what I have here to survive. I decided to be honest to you.
In a country where poverty is rife and jobs are scarce, there's a long line of kids ripe for recruiting into crime. But once they've tasted the good life, they seldom leave, regardless of the cost to victims an ocean away.
And Deborah Pata is here with us. What an investigation, and the access that you got to see the other end of this. What about the accountability? Is there any?
Well, not enough, clearly. I mean, the Ghanaian authorities do have an organised crime unit, but they lack resources. And the victims, especially when they're men, seldom report the crime because they're ashamed at what they've done, that they've been conned in the first place. And tomorrow night, we report on exactly one such case, a 75-year-old American who was conned out of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
But many of these men are embarrassed to report it. Deborah Pata, thank you so much. A deadly hijacking led to a slow-speed chase through Los Angeles. How it ended when we come back. There was a wild scene in Los Angeles overnight. Police say a gunman hijacked a city bus and killed a passenger. This led to an hour-long slow-speed police chase. The driver activated a sign that read, "Emergency 911, call police." Officers deployed spike strips to stop the bus. A SWAT team stormed the vehicle, arresting the suspect. The driver and a second passenger jumped through windows to safety. And we'll be right back. Tonight, CBS News crews are out in force across the Gulf Coast of Florida as the entire southeast braces for Hurricane Helene. By this time tomorrow, it could make landfall as a devastating Category 4 hurricane with winds of at least 130 miles per hour and a possible 20-foot surge of seawater that officials warn could be unsurvivable. So be sure to turn into CBS Mornings for the latest on the storm. And we're going to have full coverage right here tomorrow evening. And that is tonight's CBS Evening News. I'm Norah O'Donnell. Good night.